All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. It is game day, and the Niners are in Buffalo, where tonight they will take on the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about it next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is brought to you by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does automatically is entered into a drawing to win the Fred Warner jersey. All right. Autographed Fred Warner jersey, if we may add that. All right. Tonight in Buffalo, New York, the 14th edition of the Niners and the Buffalo Bills. The Niners are 5-6. They're 6-point favorites on the road against the 9-2 Bills. It's week 13 in the NFL. After tonight, the 49ers will have 5 games left. It's probably going to take close to 10 wins to get to the playoffs, even as the champion of the NFC West. And that means the Niners may have to run the table if they lose this game tonight. What do they have left? They have home against the Bears, home against the Rams, at Miami, home against the Lions, and at Arizona. So, if they lose tonight, they're going to have to run the table. As I said, Buffalo leads the all-time series 7-6. The last meeting, the Bills beat the Niners by 10, 34-24 in 2020. That was in Glendale, Arizona because of the pandemic. Last week, of course, the Bills were on the bye. The Niners lost at Green Bay 38-10. And in that game, they missed a bunch of tackles, like 20 tackles. If you look at the numbers, these teams are almost diametric opposites. The 49ers on offense are 4th overall, 7th in rushing offense, 4th in passing offense, but they're 13th in points. That's right, because they don't score in the red zone. Defensively, the Niners are 6th overall, but they're 11th versus the run, 6th versus the pass. They're 20th in points allowed. What does that tell you? The Niners are bad in the red zone on both sides of the ball. They can't score touchdowns offensively in the red zone, and they give up touchdowns too easily on defense. The 49ers, this one's going to make you sick. They're 5-6. They're the second team in the NFL as far as yards differential. There's point differential, how many points you scored to how many points you allowed. Well, the same thing. There's yards differential, how many yards you gained as opposed to how many yards you've allowed. The Niners are second in the NFL in yards differential, and yet they are 5-6 on the season. Very, very, very frustrating. So anybody who tries to tell you about stats and points to yard stats, points mean more than yards. Let's take a look at Buffalo. Buffalo's got the 13th rated offense, 11th rushing offense, 13th passing offense, but they're 3rd in points. They're 3rd in the NFL in points per game because they score in the red zone. Buffalo's defense, 15th overall, 13th against the run, 14th against the pass. But they're 7th overall in points allowed per game. So if you just looked at the numbers and you said, wow, the Niners are 4th on offense, 6th on defense, and they're taking on a Buffalo team that's 13th on offense and 15th on defense, man, the Niners are the better team. The Niners ought to win. Oh, but let's look at points. The 49ers are 13th in points scored and 20th in points allowed. And the Bills are 3rd in points scored and 7th in points allowed. And it really just comes down to the Bills are good in the red zone on both sides of the ball. And the 49ers are bad in the red zone on both sides of the ball. The other factor that is a key one in this game is turnovers. 49ers are even. They've had the exact same number of giveaways this year as they've had takeaways. The Buffalo Bills are plus 14. They've had 14 more takeaways than they've had giveaways on the year. So that's another area where Buffalo's been quite a bit better than the 49ers. The Niners, by the way, this is the 4th team that they will play coming off their bye, which is grossly unfair because the rest of the league, the most anybody else in the league plays is 2. The 49ers are already 1-2 in those games against teams coming off the bye. The Niners roll into this one, 5-6, as I said. They've lost 2 straight games overall. All right, let's flip the card back and forth, and let's take a deeper dive on this matchup, offense and defense. Let's start with the 49ers on defense. The Niners on defense in this game are going to be without Nick Bosa. They're going to be without their slot corner, Demo Lenore. And Fred Warner is playing with a fractured ankle. So Leonard Floyd has stepped up. It's his return to Buffalo, by the way, where last year he had 10.5 sacks for the Bills. He has had 3.5 sacks in the past 2 games with the Niners. So Leonard Floyd's doing his part. One guy to be aware of tonight when the Niners are on the defensive side of the ball is Khalil Shakir in the slot. He's a real problem. Since week 7, Shakir ranks 4th in the NFL in receptions per game at 7.2. And now he's going up against a 49er defense that allows the 4th most yards per reception to the slot receiver. And that was with Diamador Lenore, who's their great slot corner. Without him, the Niners could be in a world of hurt. Look for Shakir to have a big night tonight, regardless of the weather. Amari Cooper has done very little for the Bills since he came over in the trade. He's battled a left wrist injury. He's only caught 7 balls for 124 yards and 1 touchdown in 3 games with Buffalo. So they're looking to get him going, I'm sure. I don't know if tonight will be the night, but they're definitely trying to get Amari Cooper going. Josh Allen is playing like the MVP of the league. He is really playing well. Right now, if the season ended today, I think he would win the MVP of the league. Let's talk a little bit about the Niners defense. The Niners defense, has only forced 1 turnover in the past 3 games. They're 20th in points allowed per game at 23.6. And Jordan Elliott, their starting defensive tackle, is out with a concussion. Buffalo in this game will be without their star tight end, Dalton Kincaid, who continues to battle a knee injury, and the rookie receiver, Keon Coleman, is questionable with a right wrist injury. But this is a Buffalo offense that is rolling. They got a great offensive line. Because they have a great offensive line, Josh Allen's been sacked fewer than any other quarterback in the entire league. Buffalo's offense has scored 30 points or more in 5 straight games, and they've done it an NFL high 8 times this season. So this is an explosive offense. They added all-day Ray Davis to James Cook in the backfield. Cook is a good runner. He's a really good receiver. The only thing that Josh Allen sometimes will do is he'll sometimes turn it over. And he might be in a little bit of a turnover mode right now. He's thrown 5 interceptions in his last 4 games. But if you look at his numbers, he's 43 and 27 career when he commits a turnover. So just because you can get him to commit a turnover doesn't mean you're going to win the game. Allen has 5 rushing touchdowns this year. So when they get down to the red zone, that's another area. This guy can plow in himself as a runner. And so that's another area that makes them difficult to defend in the red zone. All right, let's flip the card and talk about the Niners offense against Buffalo's defense. Expect the Niners to try to run the ball on Buffalo's defense. Buffalo's defense allows 4.9 yards per carry. It's 3rd worst in the NFL. So it's supposedly going to be 25-mile-an-hour winds and snow everywhere. Run the ball. Run the ball. Now, Baltimore early in the year ran for 271 yards behind Derrick Henry against this Buffalo defense. Buffalo's been much better against the run since that point, but they got gashed early in the year, and the Niners have to have success running the ball. Christian McCaffrey only has 149 yards rushing and 132 yards receiving with no touchdowns in the 3 games since he's returned, and he hasn't quite looked like Christian. Now, Kyle's been force-feeding him the ball, trying to get the old Christian to come out, but it hasn't been there. Will Kyle continue to be stubborn and just pound his head against the wall and keep running Christian McCaffrey exclusively and ignore Mason and Garendo? If he does, I think he does so at his own detriment, because I don't think, Mason's going for 5 yards a carry. Garendo's averaging 6 yards a carry. McCaffrey's averaging 3 yards a carry. Go with your best backs. I think it's pretty clear that the young backs need to touch the ball more than they have. Brock Purdy's got a right shoulder injury, but he is going to go in this game. Trent Williams is not going to go. So Brock will be without his left tackle, and to make matters worse, Aaron Banks is also out with a concussion. So the Niners are going to have Jalen Moore and Ben Bartch at left tackle and left guard respectively for Williams and Banks. Williams and Banks are out. Moore and Bartch are in. Matt Milano, the Bills linebacker, has had a torn bicep, but I believe he's scheduled to come off the IR and play in this game. The Niners only have had 11 first downs in this last game against Green Bay. That's the fewest in a game under Kyle Shanahan in his 8 years in San Francisco. So they need to bounce back in a big way offensively. They were atrocious last week. They have to play ball control. They have to convert on third down. They have to stay on the field and make this a game. The 49ers have only scored 3 offensive touchdowns from outside the red zone all season. So they've lost their big play ability. They've lost their ability to strike from the 40. They've lost their ability to strike from the 35. They now have to get it in little smaller doses because they don't have that vertical speed. Put Garendo on the field, utilize his speed. If you can get Jacob Cowing healthy and get him out there, I would do it. There's no question. This Buffalo team's good, and they've won 6 straight overall. You're not going to beat them unless you can somehow, start to score, start to get that offense going. Since CMC returned to the Niners lineup, the Niners are the 10th worst in the NFL at yards per carry at 3.8 in those 3 games since his return. They were 4th in the NFL in the first 8 games. Without CMC, they were 4th in yards per carry at over 5 yards a carry. And with him in the 3 games, they're at 3.8, and they are the 10th worst in the NFL. That's 22nd overall. The Bills have not been beaten at home. They're 5-0 at home, and if they win tonight, they can clinch the AFC East division title. So they're going to be motivated. Once again, the Niners on offense, you got to feature George Kittle. He leads the NFL with 8 touchdowns, 8 touchdown catches in the red zone. Buffalo's defense has forced at least 1 turnover in every game this season, so you have to take care of the football. Buffalo's defense allows the lowest percentage of targets, by the way, to opposing running backs out of the backfield. So don't expect this to be a big throw it to Christian out of the backfield game. I don't think that's going to work against this defense. The Niners have to run the ball. They have to dominate the time of possession. They have to use all 3 running backs and feature Kittle, Jennings, and Pearsall in the red zone. It is criminal that Mason has 6 carries and Garendo has 1 in the last 3 games combined. They have to use all 3 backs. And maybe the biggest key is you can't let Von Miller and Greg Rousseau off the edges dominate the game and win the game. Ed Oliver is going to be a monster inside, but it's Von Miller and Rousseau against Jalen Moore and Colton McKivitz that I think is really, worries me in this one. And then, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy in his last 12 games is 6-6 with a 95 passer rating. This is a very vital stretch for Brock Purdy in his whole, are the Niners going to pay him big money or not? Of the last 21 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, 18 have been Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. And I think the question has to be asked, are the Niners okay at quarterback with Brock Purdy going forward? Do you pay him $53 million like the Dolphins paid Tua Tagovailoa? Or do you look around for a future Hall of Fame quarterback? The only non-Hall of Fame quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl in the last 21, Super Bowl winning quarterback years, obviously there's some duplicates there, but it's Nick Foles, Brad Johnson, and Joe Flacco. Every other quarterback that has won the Super Bowl in the last 21 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks has been a Hall of Famer. By the way, this is the 2nd straight game the Niners have been underdogs after being favored in 36 straight regular season games. Another area to watch for in this game. The Niners can't commit penalties. They've committed 18 penalties in the last 2 games. That's tied for the most penalties in any 2-game stretch in the NFL over the past 5 seasons. They have to do better penalty-wise. And then on special teams, Buffalo traded for Brandon Codrington from the Jets at the end of training camp, and he is 4th in the NFL with 243 punt return yards. And now he goes up against a Niner coverage unit that ranks 32nd last in the NFL, allowing 16.4 punt return yards per game, and they've already given up a kickoff return touchdown. So it's vitally important that the Niners play a clean game on special teams. And then, it would be great if Fred Warner could be Fred Warner. In weeks 1 through 4, his PFF grade was 89.1. Now he's got a fractured ankle. Weeks 5 through 12, his PFF grade has fallen from 89.1 to 62.1. They need Fred Warner to play like Fred Warner if they're going to have any chance to win this game. All right, thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. I won't give you a prediction as far as what the final score will be. I think unless the Niners can really run the ball and be +2 on the turnover table, you're going to look at the exact same thing this week as you saw last week. 38-10, 38-3, 31-17. I mean, it's going to be something like that. It's going to be the Bills with 30 plus and the Niners with not nearly enough. It just maybe they'll run the hell out of it. Maybe Brock Purdy's return will spark them. Maybe they'll be +2 in turnovers. Maybe they'll go on the road and surprise everybody and run the hell out of it and run over Buffalo in the snow. It's hard to envision. It's hard to picture. So there you go. But thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Thanks to Better for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.